talking about Chris Paul. Beverley said CP3, quote, can't guard nobody. Everybody in the NBA knows that. What do we call him? Cone. You know what you do with cones? In the summertime, you got a cone. You make a move. What does the cone do? Beverley also went on to say that Monty Williams should have actually benched Chris Paul instead of DeAndre Ayton. Man, some serious incoming fire. Shannon, were the shots from Pat Bev on CP3 inbounds or out of bounds?
I thought they were out of bounds because they seemed to come from a personal place, Skip. For me, I understand that if you're a basketball player like I did in football, you're supposed to offer harsh but fair critique, analysis, or whatever term you want to use when you discuss what you see. But never make it personal. Skip, I will never let how I might feel about Aaron Rodgers determine what I think of him on the football field. I've gone out of my way, Skip. He's the MVP. He can do it as well as anybody that's ever done this game. But I thought Patrick Beverley let his personal feelings seep into his analysis. Now, I'm listening to him this morning, Skip, early in the morning, and he's offering great analysis. He's saying, well, if I was playing Luka, this is what I would do. I would force him to hear because I know that he's not as good a passer going to his left as opposed to his right. Skip, Chris Paul did not play well. But this notion that Chris Paul is not all of a sudden just a guy. And the last 5 games, he was bad. CP3 was awful. And we brought that, for the people that didn't see, we brought that and we showed clips of him being bad, Skip. But this notion that he's just a guy. Yes, we're looking at it, we're like, damn, we can understand Luka because he's so much bigger than Chris Paul, attacking Chris Paul. But Skip, Jalen Brunson, somebody his size, we haven't seen that. Someone like that size attack Chris Paul in the post. And that's what we're starting to see. Yeah, is he the defender that he once was? But somebody made them 9 defensive team, all from first team. Somebody did that. Somebody has led the league in steals as many times as Chris Paul has. Mm-hmm. Chris Paul did that. But I thought Pat Bev made it extremely personal. And we know that there's some bad blood. He said it goes back to he was invited to the LeBron camp, and Chris Paul was in college, and he cooked Chris Paul, and it kind of started from there. And we remember last year, Skip, after the Clippers, after they were losing, he shoved Chris Paul in the back.
We should show that.
Okay.
Let's see it right now, and just to remind everybody just how bad this was. Talk about going over the edge. This is 5 minutes left in the game. Ooh, that was some whiplash.
Yes. And I don't think Chris Paul said anything to him. Maybe he said something earlier.
I was afraid Pat Bev wasn't going to get another job in the league after that push, and
right.
He obviously wound up in Minnesota.
Right.
Okay?
So, Skip...
And that was after arguably Chris Paul's greatest offensive performance of his career because he scored 41 total, but he scored 27 in about a quarter.
Yes.
Really, about a quarter's time from late third into mid-fourth, right?
Yes.
And that's what he got in return. He got a shove in the back.
He got a shove in the back. And that was my thing, Skip. And it's not easy because you want to be fair. Because people don't want you to think that, oh, you protecting him or you protecting her or you doing this or you doing that. They want you to offer a very fair, harsh critique of what you saw. But when it gets to the bounds, and there are not very many people that I didn't see and listening to them talk and reading the comments that didn't think this was personal, that this came from a personal place. This wasn't a basketball analysis. This was not a critique of Chris Paul's ineffective play. But to say Chris Paul should have been benched, really? Hell, me personally, I don't think DeAndre Ayton should have been benched. Skip, I know we get into an argument and you say we quit and I say something, I say, but at the end of the day, man, I'm trying to win a game. Put his butt back in there. Skip, you remember Odell Beckham when he had that tantrum against Carolina? And Tom Coughlin is like, well, Tom, you saw him acting out. Tom said, I'm trying to win the game.
That's what he said.
If I'm Monty Williams, hey, we'll deal with DeAndre Ayton's situation after the game. But I'm trying to win this game.
That was against Josh Norman.
That was against Josh Norman in Carolina.
Yeah, right.
Skip, I'm leaving DeAndre Ayton, but in the game, I'm trying to win this game.
Okay.
Because I know the likelihood of me not winning greatly decreases if he's not in the game. But I just thought Pat Bev went overboard, Skip. I don't really think he's like, well, okay, what was Chris Paul doing that rendered him so ineffective? Okay, give us that. What was the Mavericks doing to attack Chris Paul? But to say he's a cone, to say that someone has to move him in order to get use out of him, I didn't think, Skip, I didn't think that was a fair analysis of Chris Paul. He didn't play well. Nobody is trying to excuse that play. But to say Chris Paul is just a guy, now, I just didn't think that was fair. That's his assessment, but I just thought it was more personal.
Yeah.
It wasn't offering a fair analysis of what he actually saw.
I got it. Quick point of order. I believe that DeAndre Ayton crossed the line against Monty Williams over near the bench and went after him physically.
Right.
And I'm not sure exactly what DeAndre said, but I think it all crossed the line to the point that Monty Williams, being old school principal, just said, I cannot put that man back in that game, even though obviously he's trying to win. But at that point, the game was completely out of hand. It's mid-third quarter.
Skip, if I'm Monty Williams and say, you get mad at me, get mad at Norman Powell. Get mad at Cleveland. Get mad at them. You up here trying to fight an old coach?
Okay. In principle, I agree with everything you just said, because we just saw that.
Might have been his 5 worst game. Oh, you're talking about Chris. You're talking about Pat
but
Bev.
I mean, Pat Bev. So he shoved Chris when he was up, and then he kicked him when he was down.
Right.
He was about as down as you could ever be after that game, because it's actually 4 straight games in which.
5.
5. He was pathetic because he averaged 9 points a game for 5 games, and he just didn't resemble at all the 41-point Chris Paul or the 33-point 14 out of 14 Chris Paul or the 28-point Chris Paul of Game 2.
Might have been the worst 5-game stretch of his entire career, high school, college.
Given the magnitude, given the stakes,
yes,
it had to be, because he just looked like shell of self.
He did.
It's like he went suddenly James Harden, but for different reasons, because you wondered, he had just turned 37. He literally turned 37 and fell off the cliff.
Right.
And we even wondered yesterday, did it get in his head? I'm now 37, I can't play anymore? Surely not, but that's how it came across. Okay, before I launch deeply into this, I'm going to defend Pat Bev just in one way. I've always honored how he had to fight his way up in this league.
Yeah.
And he had to go overseas, and he went to Greece, and he went to Russia, and I think he went to China. And he had to play his way from the bottom up in this league. And he found a niche. And he made 3 times all defense, but 1 first team in 2017. He was first team all defense. So you got to give him that.
Yeah.
And just when I thought he might be washed, all of a sudden, for Minnesota this year, he was a key cog for them. And I thought he had real impact on the Memphis series, because he came in with energy and electricity and tenacity. And in the end, he was just a defensive disruptor. It's Rodman-esque, but he's getting up, he's getting under everybody's skin. And he's doing it physically, because he's just disrupting. He's getting his hands on balls. He's pushing people off their spots. He can play defense still at a very high level. So I give him that. But then to your point, Chris Paul's led this league in steals 6 times. 6 times? And he was first team all defense. Wait a second, 7 times? And made all defense 9 times. But first team 7 times? Well, you have to honor that.
Thank you.
You have to respect that. Okay, so this is what I know about ESPN, having worked at ESPN. They have what they call the car wash, and it's more different now that we still are in the back end of the pandemic, where a lot of times people don't actually come to Bristol, Connecticut. But in this case yesterday, Pat Bev knew he was going to go on every show wall to wall. Just start off on, what's the first one? Get Up, I guess, and then here they go. And he's just going to do it right on through for the whole day, all the sports centers. God bless him. Well, I think he was obviously auditioning for a potential second career, and I think he's got a real shot at being an analyst, because he is extremely outspoken, and he's very smart about basketball. And you said you heard some insight from him today, and he said, aha, I love that. Okay, well, even the night before, he's attacking Chris Paul on Twitter, and it felt like he was just previewing what he was about to do for the whole long day into the night on ESPN. Okay, I got it. It did come across as a little bit personal, because you need to frame it with some respect for Chris's career. You need to say, he used to be this for years and years. He was this, but now he's turned into this. Well, I'm not even sure about the now, because all I know about Phoenix this year, I never heard one person peep about Chris Paul being a cone during the regular season.
I did not either. I did not either.
They were top 5.
They were on both offense and defense.
The only team, top 5 in both. Well, if you have a top 5 defense, and all I heard after each of the wins at home, the first 3 games, it would be 1, 2, and 5 at home. All I heard was Phoenix just might be the best defensive team left in the playoffs because they locked them up and locked them out. And Dallas just was flat and had no hope on offense. They couldn't find anything that would work against Phoenix's defense. Well, are you hiding the cone? What are you doing?
No.
I think Chris played like an offensive cone for 5 games because I couldn't even recognize him. And I kept saying, it's not a problem of making shots because I demonstrated to you over the 5 games, he made half his shots and made half his threes.
He just didn't take enough of them.
He just didn't take any. And his shots fell off per game down to 7 a game, and his 3 attempts per game fell to 3. You're just literally not shooting. You got the ball in your hands more than anybody, and you refuse. I don't know why. It's not you're running from it. You just keep passing the ball to everybody but you.
But Skip, if you listen to that, Pat, he's saying is that Chris Paul is a dirty player. He says, he's just like I am. Y'all say I'm dirty, but y'all say he's a clean player. He says he gets they don't even call the swing throw on him, but they give me a flagrant one. But that's not Chris Paul's fault that they don't call it. That's not Chris Paul's fault that he's viewed differently than you are. You need to take that up with the analysts. You need to take that with the other players in the NBA. That's not, Skip, how Chris Paul is viewed is not Chris Paul. It's not Chris Paul's fault that you're not viewed in the same favorable light that he is. And you said it because, Skip, he's the NBA. He's the NBA player. Rep. He's the president.
Been it forever.
He's been State Farm for at least a decade, Skip. So that's okay. So and that paints him in a very favorable light because you got Cliff and then you got Chris, and so he gets a very and granted, people say, "Yeah, Pat Bear, that's dirty. What you done, that's dirty."